glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. The game preview show. 49ers versus Seattle Seahawks. And of course, divisional rivalries are always a lot of fun, especially when they kick off the season, because this is so important to both teams and how they're going to start their season off. You get a win, you not only get a 1-0 record, but you get a 1-0 in the division. You only have 6 divisional matchups that you have to take advantage of. And for the 49ers, getting ahead of Seattle is a key element in their return to hopefully getting back to the playoffs. This is going to set the tone for 2025. Now, it's not the end-all, be-all. You can go 0-1 and still have an effective season, but it sure is a lot easier if you start 1-0 and 1-0 in the division. That goes a long way in helping determine where you sit amongst the NFC, where you sit amongst the division, because guess what? It's a lot easier to get to the playoffs if you win your division. And the NFC West has been all over the place. We've seen the 49ers dominate. We've seen Seattle dominate in the past. We've seen the Los Angeles Rams come on the scene and really do some big things. So everyone's had their opportunity. And if you look at the NFC West, very talented teams, whether it's Arizona or the Rams or the Seahawks or the 49ers, everyone has the ability to win this division. You can't say right now that anyone is out of it. Now, the 49ers are favored to win the division, but things are fluctuating all the time. When you have key question marks about young players being able to play well, or can key veterans stay healthy, it just adds to, the discussion about how these teams are going to play. Now, we're going to get into this in this game preview show. We're going to get deep. We're going to talk about the coaches, some of the extra things, about that. We're going to talk about key matchups. We're going to talk about things within the game that the 49ers need to win for the game to go their direction. And if you lose these particular items, if you don't win in certain key areas, then the Seattle Seahawks are going to win. And so by doing all that, we're going to have a lot of fun building out how this game needs to be won, what the game plans are going to be. Also, going to take a look at giving some wow, that's bold predictions. I do this every single year. I'm going to give some bold predictions for what I think is going to happen to the game, some player production and things like that. And then, of course, I'm going to give my game prediction, who I think is going to win, what I think the score is going to be, all that and more in this episode, 49ers Cutback, the game preview show. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating if you feel like I deserve it. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel right now has got the 49ers favored by 1.5 points. Proceed with caution. A lot of that is changing because of some of the concerns surrounding certain 49ers and their injuries. But also, they've got a really cool 4-leg same-game parlay that's all about touchdowns. Anytime touchdown scores for McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and George Kittle, you wager $10. You win $218 because it's a plus 2180 bet. So check it out. FanDuel got a lot of cool things over there. Same game parlays, TD score props, quick bets, passing props, receiving props, over under. It's just a lot of fun. If you enjoy betting, FanDuel is a good way to go about it. But let's talk about it now. And I want to start with the coaches. And we've discussed the coaches a little bit this week. But when you look at the head coaches, Kyle Shanahan, who's been very effective in his time in San Francisco, 2 Super Bowls, many trips to the playoffs, it's been a good opportunity for him to continue to develop as a head coach. He's done a really good job, and he continues to build new coaching staffs, around him. So opportunity for Kyle Shanahan to get off to a 1-0 start. And he's going against a guy in Mike McDonald, who the Seattle Seahawks brought in because of his effectiveness against the teams in the NFC West when he was with the Baltimore Ravens, whether that was, the shellacking the 49ers took on Christmas Day against the Baltimore Ravens a couple years ago, or the way that he's coached against Sean McVay. You needed somebody that their scheme gave the 49ers a little bit of problem. So in comes Mike McDonald, and with it comes a very good defensive scheme, and he's continued to rebuild that Seahawks defense. If you just look at what he did last year, he evaluated linebackers and brought in new linebackers that were going to fit his scheme. He's continued to add to the defensive line. Dexter Lawrence comes in now to play defensive end. They've continued to put a focus on defense last year, getting those secondary players up. And then how about this year in the second round, Nick Emenwari, the safety, who's eventually going to be their eraser kind of safety. Now, is he ready to be that guy now? Probably not. It's probably going to take a little bit of time for him to get into place. But when you're 6'3" and nearly 230 pounds, and you run the way that Nick Emenwari does, you're going to have a lot of ability to be a problem for teams in the NFC West and the NFC in general in the future. So that's why Mike McDonald's here. Now, his original offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, came from the Washington Huskies after that, national championship run that they went on. And it didn't work out. So one of the things you're hoping as a defensive coordinator or defensive-minded head coach is you want somebody that can use the offense to occupy the clock, that can limit the time of possession or win the time of possession and limit the amount of possessions that the opposing offense has. You see a lot of defensive coaches do that, right? Pete Carroll used to always get some complaints because they wanted to let Russ cook, and he wanted to go back to that running game, but the running game is what really made it easier for the defense, the effectiveness of the defense, because it just shortens the game, gives you an opportunity, less snaps you have to deal with. So McDonald makes an adjustment, and he's going to go with Clint Kubiak as his new offensive coordinator. And 49ers offensive coordinator is Clay Kubiak. Now, we know Clay won't be calling the plays. That's not what he does in San Francisco. That's Kyle Shanahan's job. But like he said, Kyle Shanahan's very collaborative. That's the same word Mike McDaniel used in his time in San Francisco as offensive coordinator before he became Miami Dolphins head coach. So the collaborative nature does allow Chris Foerster. It does allow Fleury, and then also allow Chris Foerster to kind of talk with Kubiak and with Kyle Shanahan and kind of put some stuff together. So you're not really getting a Kubiak on Kubiak type of, coaching matchup. But with Clint Kubiak, it's very interesting how some of these coaches do things. And I think that part of the reason that Mike McDonald brought in Kubiak is he does believe he can help revitalize the Seahawks rushing attack, which Seahawks rushing attack last year was 28th best in the NFL and averaged under 100 yards a game. 95 yards per game on the ground is pretty crazy considering who they have at running back. Kenneth Walker, who's been nicked up some. You have, Zach Charbonnet, very talented. Last year they had Kenny McIntosh as well. It doesn't feel like an offense that should have just ran for 95 yards a game. Now, some of that's on Ryan Grubb, but that is the task that Clint Kubiak is having to take on. But I don't believe that's the only reason Clint Kubiak's here. So when Kyle Shanahan hired Robert Saleh, one of the things that he said was he wanted somebody that was going to run that Pete Carroll cover 3 scheme because that was the scheme that gave him the most problems. And so you naturally think, well, if it gives Kyle Shanahan problems, that's why he wants it. It's going to give a lot of people problems. But it's not just that element. And Sean McVay eventually made this a lot clearer. But what it is also now you get to practice against it every day. Oh, that defense gives me problems. Now I can learn the insides, the intricacies of why it works, right? Gus Bradley was pretty much the architect of that Legion of Boom defense in Seattle in that cover 3 with Pete Carroll. And now you've got him on coaching staff as well, Robert Saleh, but Saleh was taught it by Gus Bradley. So Kyle Shanahan got to learn the scheme and he got to practice against it daily. So it definitely changed the way that he approached, playing against the scheme. And it got a little bit easier because you see it every day. And I take it a step further. Sean McVay, after they lost the Super Bowl in 2018, it was 2017, 2018. Anyway, right before they traded Goff, he brought in Brandon Staley to be the new defensive coordinator because Vic Fangio defense absolutely hurt them a lot. So Vic Fangio at the time was just a defensive coordinator or maybe it was a head, but anyways, it was Vic Fangio that gave them a lot of problems. Bill Belichick copied and pasted the exact Vic Fangio playbook. I think Vic Fangio was with the Bears at the time. And he used it in the Super Bowl and absolutely stuffed that Rams offense that couldn't be stopped. And Sean McVay during the end of the season said, you know what? I'm going to bring in Brandon Staley. And he's been more, transparent about it now that everyone's moved on. He brought in Brandon Staley so they could go against that defense every day. So it could challenge him to be better every single day. So they could overcome that defense with that offense. And that's why Staley was there. And the first year Staley was there, very effective defense. Now, the league is caught up to the Vic Fangio, Brandon Staley incarnation of their cover 4, quarters defense. But it's an interesting dynamic. Now, you've got a Kyle Shanahan NFC West. You've got a Sean McVay NFC West, right, with the Rams. Now, they don't do it exactly the same. McVay, a lot of 11 personnel. Kyle Shanahan, a lot of 21 personnel, but still outside zone concepts, very similar schemes, offshoots of each other. Well, why wouldn't I bring in an offensive coordinator if I'm Mike McDonald so my guys can practice against this scheme every single day? As this offense is spreaded through the league like wildfire, it's easier to see it every single day for your defense. And so I do believe there's an element in this that he wanted to see this defense every single day from a guy who is a Shanahan disciple. And so that is an extra added layer to why you choose Clint Kubiak. First off, Clint Kubiak is going to reestablish this run game. We're going to get into some of the numbers, what he was able to do with the Saints. He was also offensive coordinator with the Broncos, even though he wasn't the primary play caller. But you're going to get an idea of what he's going to do with that and why that fits in with Sam Darnold. Now, the defensive coordinator, of course, for the 49ers is Robert Saleh again. And so we know Mike McDonald's going to call the defense for Seattle. And Robert Saleh returns, and, he's got to go against that Clint Kubiak offense. Now, he goes against Kyle Shanahan every single day in practice, so he's going to have a really good idea of the intricacies of this offense. Of course, there's going to be subtle adjustments. But you've got this offensive scheme is definitely Shanahan-esque. You got John Benton, and Robert Saleh is really familiar with John Benton. John Benton was the offensive line coach in San Francisco from 2017 through 2020. Then he went to the Jets with Robert Saleh. So he left. That's when Chris Foerster was elevated from assistant offensive line coach to head offensive line coach, was John Benton leaving. Now Benton is in Seattle. And so that will tell you everything you need to know about how similar this offensive scheme is going to be in the run game to the 49ers. John Benton, of course, there'll be variances, right? Clint Kubiak's going to have his own staple, some things that he does that's a little bit different. But overall, Benton's a really good football mind. He teaches the offensive linemen great landmarks. Like this is going to look very 49ers-esque with their outside zone, inside zone gap scheme. So it's going to be very interesting on how they handle the run game. And Saleh is tied into it all. He knows Benton. He knows Kubiak. He knows, Kyle Shanahan's system. So this is going to be a really good battle. Then you got the special teams coordinators. You got Brant Boyer, who comes in for the 49ers to revitalize his special teams and hopefully get it out of, the pits of where it was as one of the worst in the NFL. And then for the Seahawks, you got Jay Harbaugh. Sorry, wrong name. Jay Harbaugh. And, of course, that Harbaugh name, very familiar in San Francisco, and he's a good special teams coach. So let's talk a little bit about the offensive keys as you've got the Seattle Seahawks. I got their interior defensive line against the 49ers interior offensive line. And the reason I say that, and their defensive line is so good, and I think that's going to be a focal point of this football game, is that front four that they're going to line up. And, of course, they're going to have a fifth guy outside, a linebacker as well. But when you've got Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed, and DeMarcus Lawrence across the board, that is a formidable group. Now, you're going to have on the other side, Nwosu or Mafi. Those guys are also going to be bringing pressure off the edge. And so you know where the 49ers want to attack. They want to attack the Seattle defense outside of Leonard Williams and outside of Jaron Reed and push it to Nwosu and get outside of Dexter Lawrence. That's where they want to be. Now, it's becoming a little bit more problematic for the 49ers last year. Eric Saubert couldn't get it done. But now you've brought in Luke Farrell, right? Now you've got an extra body that's a good blocker to help with this goal. And the 49ers are going to try to get some separation, get some movement on that edge player, and create voids and holes for their running back to run. And whether that is Christian McCaffrey or that's Brian Robinson, Isaac Rendo, it doesn't matter. The same thing is going to be true. They're going to try to establish this running game, and they're going to try to get downhill, get vertical, get as many yards as they can. And the best way to do it is to attack that edge outside. Now, going inside is not impossible. It's just a little bit more difficult. Now, last year, when I watched the game film of the second matchup between the 49ers and the Seahawks, a matchup the Seahawks won, Jake Brendel did pretty good against Byron Murphy. But Byron Murphy's a year further along, and the guy's extremely talented. So I do have worries about an interior pass rush when Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed, Leonard Williams, and DeMarcus Lawrence are able to do some things. 49ers need to be effective on first and second down. They need to be able to run the ball on the outside. They need the occasional run on the inside. I think taking advantage of some of the athleticism and some of the eagerness of linebackers Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones could create some cutback lanes. It opened up last year. McCaffrey wasn't healthy, so it didn't open up well enough. Jordan Mason saw it, but his second level elusiveness and vision wasn't always phenomenal. Brian Robinson is going to help really big with that. So that is a cool thing about having Brian Robinson, probably one of the better vision guys that we've had as a supplement to Christian McCaffrey since Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell's vision was on par. His athleticism was good enough to make those jump cuts and go. And now you have Brian Robinson that can help. But 49ers have to be effective on first and second down running the football, so that way they can have these third and easy converts on third down. If you have third and short, it's going to be good. If you don't, it's going to be a problem because the Seahawks have coverage players in the secondary, and they have good pass rush. DeMarcus Lawrence is going to do a very good job. I think he's going to be solid. Leonard Williams is always a monster, and you just don't want to have that interior push from Jaron Reed or from Byron Murphy, but you also have to worry about that outside guy Nwosu, extremely fast, great speed off the edge. So it's gonna be fun for the 49ers being able to handle that interior defensive line. They were up to the task last year. Can they be up to the task again? Now, Seahawks edge defenders like Nwosu and Lawrence against Kittle, Farrell, Juice, and whoever the 49ers decide to pull at times. If the 49ers can get that movement in the run game, they're going to be effective. They're going to be able to make some plays. They're going to be able to get some yards. If they can't get in, I think DeMarcus Lawrence is going to do a very good job of making it difficult for them to set the edge, or to move the edge. He's stout. I think it's better to go at Mafi. I think it's better to go at Nwosu. I think those guys are better places to attack if you're the 49ers, but you can't always have it that way. So we'll see. McDonald was very willing last year to sit back in a two-eye safety look. Say, okay, 49ers, you've got a light box. Run the football consistently. 49ers in the second matchup weren't able to do that effectively. Because of that, they struggled to score points. And, Mike McDonald just took away the things Kyle Shanahan likes, the things that Brock Purdy throws really well, those deep crossers. Those were taken away. The plays with McCaffrey out of the backfield, the depth, those things were taken away. The run game, the way that they attacked it with run blitzes, it was a good game plan. And now 49ers got to be able to counteract that. And part of it's going to be McCaffrey versus Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones. If you could get McCaffrey underneath those guys, which I think they're going to have some deep drops, and we'll see what happens with McCaffrey. I don't care if it's him, Garendo, Brian Robinson, right? You get some good looks for those guys, then you have to suck those guys up, right? You get the run game going, those linebackers can't drop as deep, then those over routes are open, where you can throw those in between the safeties and the linebackers. But you need the linebackers to do one of two things. Go too deep, so you can hit your underneath receivers, and we've seen Kyle Shanahan adjust his route concepts with that, hit Jawan underneath it a couple times last year. So you need them to stay vertical, so you can get underneath it and take some shorter gains, but effective plays, high percentage plays, or you get them to come up on the run game, and then it opens up that middle of the field where you can attack. So that's what they're going to be trying to do. And it's going to be Kyle Shanahan versus Mike McDonald when it comes to personnel groupings. McDonald, wanted to sit in the two-eye safety look. He wanted to have three safeties on the field. And George Kittle didn't play in the second game last year, so it was very effective running it that way. Can they do that again? Can they go small, play two high safety, make it more difficult for Brock Purdy to throw the ball where he wants to throw it? Put the onus on the 49ers run game against that big defensive line. I wouldn't be shocked to see him try that early on in this game. So don't be surprised to see Mike McDonald ignore a lot of the 49ers 21-12 personnel and still stay light and see if he can stop it. I think the 49ers are going to have to prove they can ram it down the Seahawks' throat, time in and time out against a very good defensive line with this 49ers offensive line. They're going to have to prove it. If they do prove it, then he will have to adjust. He'll have to go bigger bodies. He'll have to take that third safety off the field, maybe walk one of those safeties in with an extra linebacker on the field. So it can change some things, right? 8 men in the box is a friend to the passing game. 7 men in the box is a friend to the run game. You have to be effective in those situations. And, I just don't know if they can be, consistently effective in the run game. We're going to find out. The 49ers can run the ball in this game effectively. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the Seahawks. Are you feeling pressure to find new recruits at your job? Well, you don't have to worry about it anymore because waiting for the right candidates to apply, well, the future of hiring looks much brighter because ZipRecruiter's latest tools and features help speed up finding the right people for your roles so you have valuable time. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. With ZipRecruiter's new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates in minutes. No wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring service based on G2 at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/audio right now, you can try it for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And touching on the defensive matchups, and of course, this episode I went over, yesterday, the nickel corner versus Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. And there's a little bit of, the 49ers playing a little bit of cloak and dagger here with who's going to start at nickel corner. It's either going to be Upton Stout or Chase Lucas. But no matter who it is, it doesn't change that that's going to be a matchup Seattle's going to look to, that Sam Darnold's going to feel comfortable with going to Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp, especially on third downs. And the 49ers are going to have somebody a little bit inexperienced, whether it's Upton Stout, the rookie, or Chase Lucas. Lucas looked great in the preseason, but he's still inexperienced when it comes to playing NFL football. That's going to be a place that they're going to want to go with the football, and the 49ers are going to have to win that. Now, D. Winters is going to have to do a better job in run this season than he did last season, and especially because of how good Drake Greenlaw was against the run. It's going to be very important for the 49ers to have D. Winters be effective, whether that's in the base 4-3, and he's got to be able to avoid those blocks, slip them, make tackles is going to be key, or it's in situations where you're in 11 personnel and there's a nickel corner out there, lots of space to cover. Winters has got the instincts, he's got the athletic ability, but he's got to be able to slow down Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. And just remember, last year, Clint Kubiak was offensive coordinator for the Saints, and even that bad Saints team still ran the ball for 114.9 yards per game last year, which is very effective. 49ers about 10 yards more per game last year without McCaffrey. But still, that is why they like Kubiak and his opportunities to do so. 49ers interior D-line versus Seahawks O-line. It's a battle right both ways. We talked about lines, and it's very important. On the outside, you're going to have, Abe Lucas and Charles Cross against Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams and Bryce Huff. Like, those are going to be some marquee matchups. Those are going to be a lot of fun. But on the interior, 49ers defensive line has to stop the run game of the Seattle Seahawks. They have to start the movement. They have to, stop things from getting going. And that's going to be a key element. Can Jordan Elliott and Kalia Davis wreak enough havoc? And can Alfred Collins and CJ West hold up at Jordan Jefferson and not allow any push to, develop into some run opportunities for the Seahawks? Seahawks want to run it 43 times in a preseason game. If you allow them to run the ball consistently, they will not pull off. Kubiak will not stop. And if you get a running game going, that is going to open the door for Sam Darnold and the play action pass where he lives to be hyper successful. So 49ers have to stop the run on first and second down and earn the right to rush the passer on third, where they could go with that gold rush package and it could be extremely huge. Saleh is also got to confuse Sam Darnold, get him off his first read, make him go to read 2, read 3, where he's less effective, where he's more willing to hold on to the football in the pocket and be susceptible to sacks. 48 sacks last year playing for Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. So there's an opportunity to get home to Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold is a guy that likes to extend plays and create, which also sometimes makes it so he loses extra yards. Sam Darnold and Kyler Murray lose a lot of yards on their sacks. And so you have an opportunity, and Robert Saleh's just got to get him off his first read, make the pre and post snap reads more difficult for Sam Darnold. There's going to be times it's going to look pre snap and he's going to get the same look and it's just going to be good coverage. But there's going to be other times you want to get him confused. And if you do, you can make him hold on to the ball. And when that happens, you have a chance to get home. Also, Upton Stout, Chase Lucas from the nickel position on blitzes, Jason Pinnock, the best blitzing safety in the NFL last year, according to PFF, being able to bring a blitz, and then the athleticism of D. Winters to get downhill. Those are some of your opportunities. But if you're going to let Sam Darnold get read 1, he's going to hit it. He's going to be effective. And he's got guys who can get open at wide receiver, especially Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, two of the best route runners in the NFC West and in the NFL in general. And then also, you've got Torrey Horton as well, who can stretch this field vertically. He's got a lot of length as well. So I think that they've got enough talent, but Saleh has got to confuse Darnold a little bit, make him pull down the ball, come off read 1, and then see what happens after that. Now, 49ers must win third down effectiveness. And I talk about this every single year. People who win third downs have a better chance of winning the game. It's just that simple. It's one of the key stats in football. Last year, the 49ers offense converted at 42%. They got to get this above 45% this season if they want to be an effective offense and continue to move the sticks. And moving the sticks takes some of the pressure off that young defense. That way that defense doesn't get too many reps. They don't get tired. And it all goes into playing complementary football. Now, the Seahawks offense only converted at 37% last year. So for reference, it's not like Clint Kubiak was much better with the Saints. He was 35%. Now, the difference is he had Spencer Rattler, right? He had some problems at quarterback. Now he's got Sam Darnold. Darnold way more effective at the quarterback position. So you expect that number to go up. But the 49ers want to keep the Seahawks offense under 40% when it comes to third down conversion rate. And if they do that, they're going to have a really good opportunity to keep getting off the field and have a lot of opportunities for their offense, more opportunities, in fact. Now, when you look at the 49ers defense, they had a 43% rate that they gave up first downs. Not great. You want to be under 40% for sure. You want to be under 35% to be a really good defense. And of course, if you're a great elite defense, you're under 30%. So 49ers 43%, not great. Nick Sorensen's defense, too much man coverage, too many struggles on third and short because they didn't earn the right to rush the passer. They would lose on first and second down in the run game and then get converted on third or fourth down. That's why you see that number so bad, 43% conversion rate. Robert Saleh's Jets team, and he was only there for a little bit, finished the season at 38%, which is very good. And with Robert Saleh there, it was under that. So effective defense from Saleh. Expect that third down effectiveness to be better for the 49ers. Can they keep it around 35%, which be really great defense? Well, we'll find out because the Seahawks defense is pretty close to great. They only allowed third down conversions at 37%. Shows what Mike McDonald can do in his effectiveness getting off the field on third down. That's going to be a key element in this football game. Now, red zone offense is also going to be huge. 49ers scored touchdowns at 57%. That was down 11% from the previous season in 2023 where they scored touchdowns at 68%. Big portion of that is Christian McCaffrey. Another big portion of that was some of the injuries to key players that kept the 49ers out of the end zone. But they've got to be more effective running the ball in the red zone. Brian Robinson's going to be very big on that. That's going to help this football team. Seahawks offense, 57% as well. The Saints were 58%. So they're expecting an uptick in red zone effectiveness. A lot of that will be how well they run the football. Darnold, when he gets into the red zone, can throw interceptions. So that's going to be a little bit of a concern for the Seahawks. But, if they're running the football effectively, look for play action to be difficult where he has the option to run and throw. Could make it a little bit difficult. 49ers need to keep that down a little bit. And the 49ers red zone defense was just abysmal last year. They gave up touchdowns at 68%. One of the worst in the NFL. They were almost dead last. It's just not good. Seahawks defense last year gave up touchdowns at 52%, way more reasonable. Even Mike McDonald would tell you he wants that to come down, but that was definitely a lot better. I think that's kind of where they'll sit. They're a tough defense to score in the red zone. You have to make sure you're on your P's and Q's. Just for reference, last year the Jets finished at 58%, but that number rapidly went up once Robert Saleh left. So red zone defense is going to be one of the keys. You've got to make sure that when it comes time, you force them to kick field goals and not touchdowns. It's going to be one of the key ingredients in this game. Now, before I do my Wow That's Bold predictions, I got to say, never saw this video. Get ready for it because it's time for Wow That's Bold.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
It's got to be really bold. It's got to be whoa. And my Wow That's Bold predictions start in the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. Last year, he had 12 interceptions. It wasn't his best turnover season. And I'm going to say in this game that Mike McDonald's defense doesn't cause one turnover from Brock Purdy, right? If you go back and you watch that old Christmas game, Brock Purdy threw a ton of interceptions. Not happening in this game. He's going to take care of the football. He's going to be efficient. He's going to be effective. And he's not going to turn over the football. Brock Purdy, no turnovers. My second offensive Wow That's Bold prediction is Brian Robinson is going to get his first touchdown as a San Francisco 49er. I think there's going to be an opportunity for him to plunge in, from a couple yards out, and I think he's going to take advantage of it. Brian Robinson, 49ers red zone converter, short yardage converter, and a guy that's going to, be impactful for the 49ers. We've seen Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason finish off drives, and I think Brian Robinson starts his 49ers career by finishing off drives as well. On the defensive side of the ball, I got Fred Warner creating a turnover. And why not? When Fred Warner was healthy last year, he was creating turnovers every single week. He was on a historic pace. And I think he continues that. All-Pro Fred, healthy again, he's going to get a turnover. Whether he punches the ball out or he creates an interception off Sam Darnold, it is inevitable Fred Warner gets a turnover. And then I got a young guy making a big play. Mikael Williams gets his first sack in the NFL. I think it'll come when he's rushing on the inside. You're going to get a great opportunity to see Mikael. I think they're going to get a good situation with how they generate pass rush and some of those gold rush packages. And I think Mikael Williams is going to get his first sack in the NFL. Now, for prediction time. Will it be the 49ers or will it be the Seahawks? I think it's going to be a tough, hard-fought battle in Seattle. I think there could be a little bit of weather. We don't know for sure what's going to happen with that. We'll see. But I think the 49ers win this football game. And I think the Seattle's going to put up a fight. I think they're going to move the ball. They're going to play great defense. But in the end, I think the 49ers just have a couple more playmakers that are going to get something done down the stretch. And the San Francisco 49ers are going to beat the Seattle Seahawks in a tough, hard-fought battle, 26-20, and start out week 1, 1-0. And the Seattle Seahawks fall to 0-1. We'll see if that happens. I think that this is a tough game. It could go either way. Just look at the betting lines. It's razor thin. It's not pick 'em, but it might as well be at that 1.5 number. I think the 49ers, though, they do win this game and they beat the Seahawks and they go to 1-0 and set their season on the right track because next week they got to travel to New Orleans. So it's going to be a fun battle, guys. This is going to be a great game for 49ers and Seahawks. Seahawks are a formidable opponent, and I'm looking forward to the game overall. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode brought to you by FanDuel. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.